right? So risk has nothing to do with skill. They're kind of two parallel constructs. Skill allows you to see opportunity, right, and figure out kind of patterns that others don't see. But you need to have some sort of structured process by which you can lower the plank. If it's only 1 foot across, you want it down at 10 feet. If your plank of wood is 20 feet across, then it's okay that it's up at 100 feet, right? So there's a way to kind of think about it. And these constructs of the idea funnel essentially gives you a way to say, how do you go from an idea to something that progresses further? Okay? And there are lots of different ways in which you qualify an idea, and lots of different ways in which you can decide whether something should progress down the funnel or shouldn't progress down the funnel. I want to talk to you about some of those things. Okay? One of the hardest thing, and I'm saying this particularly to this audience, one of the hardest things for smart people to accept is that most businesses don't require smart ideas. And in fact, the smarter you are, the more you tend to be gratified by smart thoughts. But the reality is that most successful businesses are not about ultra-smart ideas. They're about ultra-smart execution of fairly simple things. Okay? Let me give you a couple of examples here. How many of you know what the 4-color problem is in graph theory? A couple of you. So, any planar graph, any graph, you can color it with you don't need more than 4 colors in order to have contiguous countries or contiguous spaces, be in different colors. So in order to have, if the condition is no 2 countries that's touching each other or no 2 pieces of land that are touching each other should be of the same color, it is true that you never need more than 4 colors. Okay? There are proofs of this in computing. And it's a really profound thing. When I first heard this, it just blew my mind because, why should this be so? And then immediately what you start doing is you start drawing all sorts of shapes, attempting to show that it's false. But in fact, it is provably true that you never need more than 4 colors. Okay? So the first time I heard this, I spent a lot of time thinking, oh, there's got to be a way to take this idea of 4-color graph stuff and apply it into the world. Okay? And there are applications of it, but one of the problems, because we're exposed to these sorts of problems, is that you get entranced with the idea of it. Okay? How many of you know pi to 5 digits? The value of pi to 5 digits. 3 point, then 5 digits. Come on, show of hands. How many of you know it? More of you know it. Okay. How many of you have heard a problem that starts, there are 13 balls that need to be weighed on a pan balance, and you're given only 3 weighings, and you have to find the defective ball. How many of you have heard that class of problem? Okay? 70, 80% of you. And we are fed so many of these questions that require us to be mentally agile and smart that when we think about a business, we think, I've got to find a problem and a business that's smart enough to suit me. Okay? And we go out on the hunt for smart problems to solve. And so one of the muscles we need to learn as entrepreneurs is that whether you like a problem or you think a problem is interesting is irrelevant. Right? So it's a detraining around kind of the pursuit of the smartest problem, because the bulk of the world's problems are like that fisherman on the Kaveri River. And it didn't require me to know graph theory in order to figure out there's an opportunity there. So I'm going to give you a 4-color problem of a different sort. What are these? Right? So whiteboard markers, right? You all have used them. Have you all used them? How many of you have had the experience of a whiteboard marker that you've picked up that you used on the whiteboard that didn't have ink? Okay? So this is where entrepreneurial ideas originate. Why has nobody fixed it? What's the fix? What's the fix for this problem? Okay, so could you have a gauge on it that shows you the level of ink as you use it, just so you don't pick up the thing and feel like a fool writing on a whiteboard and then rolling your eyes like you've done 25 times? Okay. What else? What else is the fix for this problem? Sorry? Okay, so you have to kind of keeping it horizontal is a fix for it, but that that's a little bit of a user adjustment problem. Yeah. Making the casing transparent, seeing the ink level. Well, and so look, so I think part of this is that in this daily experience is the big company. Okay. It may not satisfy your sense for the fact that you've done electrical engineering for 4 years, or you've done biotech for 3 years. Sadly, this is where the big company is. Right? It is in a nuanced understanding of either a gap in the user experience, which is what this is, or a possibility for a user experience that is different than what exists today. Right? And the user does not need to be consumer, it can be businesses, it can be whoever it is, whatever your domain of specialization is. Right? So one of the important muscles is about shifting yourself from the domain you know a lot about to starting to observe the world around you. And it can be connected to your domain, but it need not be. Okay? And the list of ideas is not about how do I apply the one thing I've learned 25 different ways, but about observing these sorts of gaps, right? And then making some quick, choices about whether it's a problem worth solving. Is there a path to money? Can I actually build a business around it? Right? But the source of ideas and so on, it's not the 4-color graph theory problem, it's the 4-color whiteboard marker problem. Okay? When I was in IIT, there was a kind of a story game making its rounds, and it went something like this. One person would tell the other a fragment of a story, and through yes or no questions you had to figure out the rest of the story. So the popular one went like this. There was a knock on the door. The butler opened the door. A man walked in to the room, and 30 minutes later, the man lay dead on the floor in a pool of blood. Okay, this is fun for a Friday afternoon here. Okay, so you're told this fragment, and the person has to guess the context around that story by asking you yes or no questions. It's a fantastic game if you've never played it, because your mind goes crazy. You're trying to imagine all the things that could have happened to this person. Why did he lie dead on the floor, and what was the pool of blood, and what was he, what resulted in his death, who caused it, what room was this, where did he enter, and you're building essentially kind of an entire context for the scene through yes or no questions. And one of the qualities of this story is that somewhere at the midpoint of this process. And sometimes it takes you 4 hours to get to the end of this. And it's an actual story. It's not, it's an actual scene and a setting. About at the halfway point, your mind is going crazy with all the possibilities. And then you discover at the end that the answer to it was, in this case, a group of people who've been stranded, who much like the Argentinians who crashed in the people who crashed in the Andes, began to kind of eat each other for survival, and there was kind of it was a very different, kind of a sad, not very, lurid story at all. Okay? And part of this is that when you are, as an entrepreneur, you start getting excited by a piece of it. Okay? And you need to pull back and say, what's the whole thing? So you all have been staring at this now for 30 seconds. What is this? Huh? A trumpet? It's a what? Water drain, yeah. Chimney. Sorry? Binocular vision capture thing, yeah. Huh? Wheel? A disc, yeah. Well, and so, right, I'm totally cheating with you guys. I took this photograph 2 years ago. I was in the UK on a beach in Brighton in the south of England. And what this is the most boring thing in the world. At the end of this pier was a big sculpture that looked like a donut. What is it? I have no idea. But when you see a fragment of something, your mind fills in untrue stuff. Okay? And when you start a business, when you look at, the whiteboard markers don't work, and this person said that I would be willing to pay twice as much if you solve that problem for me. And then you get excited about it, and you don't see the rest of the picture. There are lots of examples of kind of seeing it in a microwave versus the broader context. Does anyone know what this is? What is it? MP3 player. Any other ideas? Walkman? Okay, so this is in fact an MP3 player. And it was the largest selling MP3 player before the iPod came out. Okay? It was done by a company called Diamond Multimedia. It was called the Rio PMP 300 or something like that. And it had the largest market share MP3 player before the iPod came out. So why isn't this a worldwide phenomenon today? What was it about the iPod that caused it to be a worldwide phenomenon? Surely not taking something that was black and making it white, and taking something that had a user interface with buttons on it and making a dial. What was it? Simplicity, storage. What? Other? Back there. Sorry? Of what? Okay, branding, marketing, whatever, yeah. Easier to carry, maybe. The experience. So if someone came to you with a business idea and said, okay, I'm going to take this in this market, the MP3 market, player market. I'm going to do exactly what already exists in the market, but I'm going to make it simpler, and I'm going to brand it a little bit, and I'm going to make it easier to carry and improve the storage, and it's going to become a worldwide phenomenon. You'd laugh.